We now have Blake Lively's updated lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, and there is a lot to cover in this. The first thing to note is there are now 15 causes of action for this. There are several for sexual harassment and retaliation, of course, but she's also listed failure to investigate, prevent, and or remedy harassment, aiding and abetting harassment and retaliation, breach of contract is in here twice, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligence infliction of emotional distress, false light invasion of privacy, defamation, civil conspiracy. Another important thing to note is she has now included Jed Wallace in this lawsuit. He was included in her California complaint, but he was not included in the New York lawsuit, and he is now. Jed Wallace was the alleged hitman that they hired to seed all of the articles and things about Blake Lively in the media, and he is now included. The very first thing listed in the introduction section of this is actually a quote from Justin Baldoni's book from 2017. His book was titled, "Why I'm Done Trying to Be Man Enough," and this is the quote. "Are you confident enough to listen to the women in your life, to hear their ideas and their solutions, to hold their anguish and actually believe them, even if what they're saying is against you? And will you actually stand up and do something so that one day we don't have to live in a world where a woman has to risk everything and come forward to say the words, 'me too'?" I'm going to go through several points in the introduction with you in this video. There is a lot, guys, so buckle in. The very first thing listed in this says, plaintiff Blake Lively brings this lawsuit because she was unlawfully retaliated against for coming forward and reporting sexual harassment that occurred against her and others on the set of It Ends With Us. She confirms numerous times throughout this lawsuit that she is not the only one that has brought these concerns. She does not name the other co-stars in this and specifically says it's because of retaliation against Justin Baldoni. She says they are not going to be named and she is not sharing the screenshots until discovery because of the retaliation that he has done in the media. The lawsuit goes on to say, for years prior to the release of the film, Mr. Baldoni portrayed himself as a leader of the male feminist movement, writing books, hosting podcasts, and hosting TED Talks on this topic. In reality, however, Mr. Baldoni's public persona is a stark contrast to his private behavior, which is replete with hypocrisy, misogyny, and retaliation. In public, Mr. Baldoni gave the appearance of taking responsibility for the fact that he had unconsciously been hurting and silencing the women in his life, and these are quotes from his book, and imploring men to be man enough to shut the hell up and listen to women. Again, quotes from his book. He claimed that he wanted to end toxic masculinity, acknowledging his own toxic behavior by admitting that there is a woman or two that I in some way made uncomfortable by saying something or doing something that was chauvinistic or sexist. This is 1,000,000% probability that this exists, and that he wanted to say he was sorry and would do better. Mr. Baldoni echoed this narrative while marketing the film. In an interview on CBS discussing the release of the film on August 7th, 2024, he claimed, "I want men to stop asking the question, why do women stay? I want men to take accountability. I want men to hold other men accountable." It goes on to say that in his moment of truth, when forced to confront women he had made uncomfortable on his own set, he trivialized their concerns and failed to take accountability for the effects of his behavior, whether intended or not. And when faced with the predictable consequences of having created a toxic set, namely that the cast did not want to appear alongside him in public, rather than holding himself accountable, Mr. Baldoni hid behind his billionaire friend and retained publicists, crisis managers, digital media strategists, and litigators to mount a sophisticated and well-funded retaliation campaign that sought to bury and destroy anyone that challenged his brand. That campaign has succeeded beyond Mr. Baldoni's wildest expectations. In fact, the defendant's actions have created such a toxic climate of online vitriol against Miss Lively, her family, other members of the cast, and various fact witnesses that all of the above have received disturbing threats. One fact witness known to publicly support Miss Lively recently received a written threat indicating that the witness's family would be sexually assaulted and killed unless the witness agreed to make a statement and give the truth. This type of climate was the predictable, if not inevitable, result of the retaliatory campaign launched by the Baldoni Wayfarer parties both before and after the litigation began. Now, this next section refers to the fact that Blake is going to try and protect the witnesses and bystanders involved by not naming them. It says the dangerous climate of threats, harassment, and intimidation fueled by the defendant's retaliation campaign has required Miss Lively to alter her personal and professional life and to take steps to protect innocent bystanders rather than exposing them to further harm. Thus, this amended complaint does not refer to certain witnesses by name, nor does it provide screenshots of their text messages. Importantly, however, these witnesses have given Miss Lively permission to share the substance of their communications in this amended complaint as contained herein, and they will testify and produce responsive documents in the discovery process. Miss Lively brought this lawsuit because she was, and this is bolded, one of, and then in quotes, she's quoting him now, women or two that Mr. Baldoni 1,000,000% made uncomfortable on the set of the film. As detailed in her opening complaint and below, Miss Lively was disturbed by the fact that Mr. Baldoni spoke about his porn addiction, divulged information about his sex life, made derogatory, degrading, and sexual comments, described his own genitalia, improvised intimacy that had not been rehearsed, choreographed, or discussed with Miss Lively in advance, and added graphic content to the script, including multiple new scenes with nudity and a chaotic birthing scene for which he cast a friend as her OBGYN, among other things. Then it goes on to say, but Miss Lively was not the only one who was uncomfortable on set, and Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer knew it. After Mr. Baldoni learned that he had caused Miss Lively and others to feel uncomfortable, he turned his TED Talk and feminist advocacy on its head. He did not hold himself and other men accountable or take his own advice to be confident enough to hold their anguish and actually believe them, but instead used a louder voice to silence Miss Lively and anyone else who might speak up. That louder voice, amplified by publicists, crisis managers, digital media teams, and lawyers, has sought to mislead the public into believing that Miss Lively did not experience sexual harassment by portraying her as a powerful bully who fabricated claims of misconduct in order to seize control of Mr. Baldoni's movie. This narrative is false and nonsensical on its own terms, completely at odds with Mr. Baldoni's confession to his crisis manager on August 30th, 2024, that Miss Lively is the kind of person that genuinely believes she's right and that all of this is unjust, and is breathtakingly cynical coming from a man whose public brand is built upon a pro-feminist facade that urges others to listen to and believe women. More importantly, the defendant's false narrative crumbles under the indisputable truth that Miss Lively was not alone in complaining about Mr. Baldoni and raised her concerns as they arose in 2023, not in connection with some imagined power play for control of the movie in 2024. The experiences of Miss Lively and others were documented at the time they occurred, starting in May of 2023. Importantly, and contrary to the entire narrative defendants have invented, Mr. Baldoni acknowledged the complaints in writing at that time. He knew that women other than Miss Lively also were uncomfortable and had complained about his behavior. In the next section, Blake's legal team gets into the dates and times where she has spoken to other cast members through texts, emails, and in person about Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath's behavior on set, including the fact that she sent these complaints and concerns to Sony employee Ange Giannetti, the film's representative, so Sony was aware of these issues in May of 2023. There is a ton of new information in this to go through. I will be breaking it all down today, so make sure you hit follow. I'm going to be going through this whole lawsuit and I will share everything with you.